All right, today we have a special episode because 1 week from today is Halloween, and I know there are lots of feelings whenever it comes to Halloween as believers and what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And so I'm going to go through some resources and ideas for your family that can help you keep Christ at the center of a day that is definitely not centered on Jesus. So, first we're going to start with a few books. So I always love books getting in kids' hands, especially books that we can use to help talk to our kids about Jesus. And so a few that I'm going to show you, you could start as a tradition with them. The first one is a pumpkin prayer. So this one is really good for your preschoolers. I'm going to show you a little bit of the inside and then I'll tell you how you could use this. So it's very simple read. So with thanks, I say a pumpkin prayer under an autumn sky for crunch, crunch, crunch beneath my feet and leaves piled up this high. So it goes through, it's basically talking about things that you see outside. So the cool, crisp breeze for orange, yellow, brown, and red, a colorful delight. So talking about the different leaves, colors that you see, not so much here in Texas because it still feels like summer, but hopefully where you are, it feels like fall. For yummy smelling pumpkin pie and orange grins that glow. For family, friends, for plenty, and a God who loves me so this one's very much centered on prayer. I think this would be great to read with your preschooler. You could even read it and then go outside and see if you could find some of the things that are talked about in the book. So like see if they can feel the crisp, cool air, talk about the trees, how they're changing colors and how God designed that. If you see jack-o'-lanterns or pumpkins on people's porches or in their yards, you can talk about how, God made pumpkins. And there's just so much that you could do with this. It's so simple, but yet could have such an impact for your preschooler. And then talking about the things that you're thankful for at the end and praying, thanking the Lord for all those things. So that is one book. The other one is the Pumpkin Patch Parable. This one would be more for, elementary, younger elementary, mid-elementary age, but it's about a farmer, and throughout the story it talks about how he plants the seeds at the beginning and he's very patient watching them grow through the summer, how they need the sunlight. So it's talking about how plants grow, and there's also scripture throughout this one which I really love. So like this page says, the farmer grows a lot of different things in those fields. He grows tall green corn and big red tomatoes, long yellow squash, and little green peas. People eat that stuff for dinner. And then at the bottom it has John 15:1, which is, I am the true vine, my Father is the gardener. So each page has scripture on it, which is really great. But it talks about the pumpkins growing and how once they're ready, he comes and picks one and he's really careful with it. He washes it, he cleans out the insides, and then how it gets a new face. So he carves a pumpkin to share with his neighbors, and then they smile back at him. And so it's just a really sweet story. If you like to carve pumpkins, this would be a good one to read together as a family, and then carve your pumpkins with smiling faces to share with your neighbors so that they can smile back at you. So that's a great one. The other book that I would recommend, which I don't have a copy of it, but I am going to link all these below to Amazon. So if you want to purchase them, you can grab them through those links down below. But the third one is the Pumpkin Gospel, and it's going to walk through how you could share the gospel using a pumpkin with your child. So that's another great option. Like if your family does like to carve pumpkins, how you can still like bring that back to Christ. I'm sure you've maybe heard, maybe you haven't, but there is a lot of pumpkin gospels on the internet. If you just Google search pumpkin gospel, you'll find them. But it's ways that you can share the gospel using a pumpkin while you're carving it. So it talks like Jesus picks us, so picking us from the patch, and washes us clean. The inside is a good representation of sin and all the yuckiness that's in our life, and how he carves a new smiling face and then gives us a light so that we can share his love with others around us. So that's also a really fun activity that you can do with your family. Like I said, I'll link all those books down below. So let's talk about some other things, because as believers and Christians, I don't think that we are supposed to recluse in our homes on Halloween night and hide away from the world outside. Halloween is like the one night that you're guaranteed that your neighbors are going to be out and about, coming straight up to your door. This is a great time to have conversations, get to know your neighbors. It doesn't mean that you have to have full-on gospel conversations with them, but just getting to know them, getting to know their names. There's something so powerful about you remembering somebody's name later on. So as you are meeting neighbors that night, you can jot them down in your phone. Don't do it while they're talking to you. That'd be a little weird. But like after you've had the conversation, be like, okay, that was John and Amy, and they live 3 doors down with the yellow flowering bush in their yard, whatever it might be. That helps you remember, just so that after the fact, like, one, you could pray for your neighbors, but two, you can continue to have conversations past Halloween whenever you see them out doing their yard or playing with their kids, whatever it might be. So I'm going to go through a list of just ideas that I have for you, things that you could do with your family on Halloween to build community, get to know your neighbors, and keeping Christ at the center of it. So one is to do a prayer walk. Halloween can bring out the darkness. We know that is true, but maybe doing a prayer walk, the day before or the week before, however you want to do it. But you could walk through your neighborhood and you see things in people's yards that help you know, like, they may have kids, they may have a bumper sticker that, tells something that they're interested in. So you don't have to like stop on people's yards and pray like that, but just as you're walking by, subtle prayers just for your neighbors, teaching your kids how to pray continuously for those around them. So you could do a prayer walk on Halloween night. You could create a fun hangout spot in your yard for your neighbors. So you could have yard games. I've found quite a few things on Amazon that would be really great to have in your yard, just to bring people in, give the kids some activities to do, give parents and children activities to do. So I'll link those all down below. But like yard games, I found a big coloring poster that you could put out on a table and let everybody color on it. You could pass out like a scavenger hunt card for families to do as they're walking through your neighborhood and they're trick-or-treating. There's so many different things that you could do. Just create an inviting space where people could hang out. As they hang out and play a game or whatever, that might be a good opportunity for you to ask their name and just be kind. If you do something different, they're going to remember that. And like I said, it just starts conversations and it plants seeds for what might happen in the future. Another thing that you could do is thank you cards. So one thing that's really big for us with our daughter is that holidays, we tend to get a little selfish, and especially with kids, it can be all about, what am I getting? I want this, I want that. But trying to teach her from an early age that we can also give back. So one thing that we did with my parents last week is that we went to a retirement home and my daughter just walked around. We had a big bag of candy and she would just give candy to these elderly people, and it made their day. It was so fun to watch, and my daughter got so into it, and she's only 2.5, but it was fun to watch her give the candy away and not be so centered on getting it herself, which was really sweet. So that's an idea. You can check with the local retirement homes, or even like taking things to first responders, giving them a little treat during the season, I know would mean a lot to them. Also, whenever your kids are trick-or-treating, if you go out trick-or-treating, if you have a thank you cards, so they could either be handmade if you don't have the time to hand make them. I've linked some thank you cards that you could write on down below, or if you're like, we don't have time for anything, there's also these pass along cards, which are geared more towards Thanksgiving, but it's something that your kids could give people as they trick-or-treat. So they go up to house, trick-or-treat, they get candy, and then they give the person one of these pass along cards or a thank you card. I think that catches people so off guard, and it's just a really sweet gesture showing thankfulness. But also with the ones that I'm linking down below, they have scripture. So you're handing somebody scripture, they're gonna have that, they're gonna read it, it's a seed planted. And so I think that's a really great idea, is to have thank you cards, something to give people whenever they give your family and your kids candy. Another thing that you could do on Halloween, and then keep it year round even, is a prayer box. You could have it out in your yard or your driveway, just with some simple instructions that if you have a prayer request, our family would love to pray for you. I've heard stories of people doing this throughout the years, and it's just really neat how the Lord uses that to share the gospel and to bring people together where they can connect and pray for one another, and people have even come to know Christ through that. And so those are just a few options as Halloween is approaching next week. I know it can be very overwhelming as a parent to find that fine line of letting your kids be part of something but not of something. And so teaching them how we can still be part of this, but we can keep it Christ-centered on Halloween night, and how we can share the gospel with everyone that we come in contact with. Because like I said, Halloween is the one night that you're guaranteed that all your neighbors are going to be walking around your neighborhood, and that's a huge opportunity for us to connect with them, get to know them, to invite them to church. If you have fall festivals too, that's another thing that's coming up. So like trunk or treats at your church or fall festivals, invite your neighbors as they're out. I feel like this is the time of year when, we're all taking a big sigh because the weather's finally cooling off. People are out in their yards. You could have your kids, if you have flyers, go pass those out to kids in the neighborhood. There's just so many ways that we can connect and share Christ this upcoming week. So I hope this helps. I hope these are resources that you'll find valuable. Make sure to like and subscribe and share. That way you can stay up to date on all the resources and ideas out there to bring your kids and your family closer to Christ. So I hope y'all have a good one, and we'll see you soon.